August 1st, 1943, 2300 hours, black at Strait, Solomon Islands. Lieutenant Junior Grade John F. Kennedy gripped the wheel of PT-109 as the plywood torpedo boat sliced through the darkness at 38 knots. The three Packard Marine engines, each producing 1,500 horsepower, roared with a sound that reminded Kennedy of the bomber aircraft he had seen at airfields back home. These weren't ordinary boat engines. They were aviation power plants, 12-cylinder liquid-cooled monsters designed for fighters and bombers, adapted for the most unconventional naval warfare platform ever conceived. Through the humid tropical night, Kennedy's crew of 12 men rowed their 80-foot boat like jockeys on a thoroughbred. The PT boat, patrol torpedo boat, displaced just 56 tons, yet carried 421 in torpedoes, twin 50-caliber machine guns, and enough fuel to travel 500 m at cruising speed. It could accelerate faster than any warship afloat, turn tighter than anything its size, and disappear into the darkness before enemy vessels could train their guns. What the Japanese destroyer Amagiri's crew didn't know as their 1,500-ton steel warship steamed through Blackett Strait at 30 knots was that they were about to collide with the most radical naval weapons platform of World War II. A boat powered by aircraft engines that could outrun destroyers, attack battleships, and vanish into the night like a phantom. A vessel so fast, so maneuverable, and so deadly that Japanese sailors had begun calling them Ui, not to ride the sea fortress. At 2,330 hours, the impossible happened. The destroyer, traveling at high speed in total darkness, rammed PT-109 at directly amidships. The impact split the plywood hull like kindling. The forward gun turret, both torpedo racks, and the entire bow section separated from the stern. Gasoline from ruptured fuel tanks ignited, creating a wall of flames on the water's surface. 2 of Kennedy's crew died instantly in the inferno. Yet, even in this catastrophic moment, the revolutionary nature of the PT boat revealed itself. Despite being cut in half by a ship 30 times its displacement despite fires raging across the wreckage, the stern section remained afloat. The survivors, including Kennedy, clung to the floating wreckage throughout the night and into the next day. The buoyancy built into the plywood hull, the watertight compartments, the very design that made PT boats so revolutionary, kept 11 men alive when by all rights they should have drowned in the dark Pacific waters. This survival, this near miraculous flotation of half a destroyed boat, wasn't luck. It was engineering, American engineering, that had taken aircraft power plants producing 400-500 combined horsepower and married them to a hull that could absorb punishment, maintain speed, and deliver devastating firepower. The story of how aviation engines ended up powering the fastest attack boats in naval history begins not in the Pacific, but in the design offices and boatyards of America, where engineers were about to revolutionize naval warfare. The crisis that spawned PT boats emerged in the late 1930s as Navy planners recognized that future naval warfare would require new capabilities. Traditional destroyers, while effective, were expensive, required large crews, and couldn't operate in shallow coastal waters where much of the Pacific fighting would occur. Motor torpedo boats, fast attack craft-carrying torpedoes, had proven effective in European waters, but existing designs were inadequate for Pacific distances and sea conditions. The solution required radical thinking. In 1939, the Navy issued specifications for a new torpedo boat. Minimum speed 40 knots, range 500 miles. Armament including torpedoes and anti-aircraft guns, crew of 12 to 15, and critically, it had to be fast enough to attack, deliver torpedoes, and escape before enemy warships could respond. This combination of speed, range, and firepower had never been achieved in a small boat. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Packard Motor Car Company, famous for luxury automobiles, had been building aircraft engines under license from Rolls-Royce since 1941. The Packard V1650, an American-built version of the legendary Merlin engine that powered Spitfires and P-51 Mustangs, produced over 400 horsepower. Packard engineers realized that with modifications for marine use, these aviation power plants could revolutionize boat performance. The marine adaptation required extensive engineering. Aircraft engines operated in controlled temperature ranges at altitude. Marine engines faced saltwater, extreme humidity, and continuous high-power operation at sea level. The cooling system had to be completely redesigned. Raw water cooling through bronze heat exchangers replaced the aircraft's radiator system. Corrosion-resistant materials replaced aluminum components. The ignition system received waterproof shielding. Most critically, the power transmission had to change. Aircraft engines drove propellers through reduction gears at relatively low shaft speeds. Marine engines needed to drive propellers at higher speeds through the water. The Packard 4M2005 100 marine engine, the designation given to the PT boat power plant, incorporated a two-stage reduction gear that converted the engine's 2,800 RPM to optimal propeller speed. The result was a marine engine producing 500 horsepower, weighing just 400 lb, and capable of sustained operation at full power for hours. No marine engine of comparable size had ever achieved such power output. 3 of these engines installed in a single ADFT hull delivered 4,500 total horsepower. For comparison, the destroyer that would ram PT-109, the Amagiri, displaced 1,500 tons and produced 52,000 horsepower from steam turbines. The PT boat achieved similar speed with less than one-tenth the power because of its minimal weight and optimized hull design. The Elco Naval Division of the Electric Boat Company received the contract to build what would become the most successful PT boat design. The Elco 80 PT boat, first delivered in 1941, represented revolutionary construction techniques. The hull was built entirely of laminated mahogany, planking over white oak frames. 2 layers of diagonal planking, each 5/8 in thick with waterproof glue between layers, created a hull that was light, strong, and remarkably resilient. This plywood construction, often mocked by traditionalists who believed warships should be steel, provided crucial advantages. Weight just 33 tons, empty speed, with 3 Packard engines driving 3 bronze propellers. The boats achieved 41 knots in sea trials. Repairability, battle damage to wood, could be patched quickly with materials available at any forward base. And surprisingly, survivability, unlike steel that torn when struck, wood could absorb tremendous impact without catastrophic failure. The armament package transformed these fast boats into genuine warships. 4 Mark 13 torpedoes, each carrying 670 lb of Torpex explosive, provided anti-ship firepower. The Mark 13, 22 feet long and weighing 2,400 lb, could strike targets at ranges exceeding 6,000 yards. 2 twin 50 caliber machine gun turrets, one forward, one aft, provided anti-aircraft defense and surface firepower. Additional 20 mm American cannons were added as the war progressed. The crew complement reflected the boat's hybrid nature. A commanding officer, typically a lieutenant junior grade, an executive officer, a quartermaster who served as helmsman, a radio man, a torpedo man, a motor machinist's mate for each of the 3 engines, gunners for the machine guns and cannons. Total crew ranged from 12 to 14 depending on mission requirements. Training these crews required new techniques. At the Motor Torpedo Boat Squadron's Training Center in Melville, Rhode Island, future PT boat commanders learned skills no naval officer had needed before. Heist, speedboat handling in rough seas, navigation without radar in total darkness, torpedo attack tactics against moving targets, engine maintenance and field repair, even small unit infantry tactics for the shore raids that PT boats would support. The first combat deployment came in December 1941, when Motor Torpedo Boat Squadron 3 arrived in the Philippines. Lieutenant John Bulkley commanded PT-41, one of 6 boats defending Manila Bay when the Japanese invasion began. What followed demonstrated both the potential and limitations of PT boats in combat. On the night of January 18, 1942, Bulkley's boats attacked a Japanese invasion convoy off Subic Bay. Racing through the darkness at 40 knots, PT-41 closed to within 300 yards of a Japanese cruiser before launching 2 torpedoes. The Mark I 13 torpedoes, notoriously unreliable early in the war, both malfunctioned. One ran deep, passing under the target. The other's magnetic exploders failed, hitting the cruiser but not detonating. Despite perfect attack execution, no damage resulted. The cruiser's searchlights caught PT-41 in their beams. 3 guns opened fire. Bulkley pushed the throttles to maximum, and the Packard engines responded instantly, accelerating to 43 knots. The PT boat literally outran the shellfire, disappearing into the night, trailing a phosphorescent wake. This pattern, brilliant attack, runs negated by torpedo failures, characterized early PT boat operations. The boats performed superbly. The engines never failed. The crews executed flawlessly, but the torpedoes, the weapons, the entire platform was designed to deliver were fatally flawed. Magnetic exploders that didn't trigger, depthing mechanisms that ran too deep, contact exploders that failed on impact. Through 1942 and into 1943, PTBO crews delivered perfect attacks that produced 0 results. Despite these frustrations, PT boats proved invaluable for other missions: heist, speed transport of personnel and supplies to isolated garrisons, evacuation of personnel from threatened positions. In March 1942, PT-41 evacuated General Douglas MacArthur, his family, and key staff from Corgoder to Mindanao. A 650-mile journey through Japanese-controlled waters. The trip, completed in stages over 3 nights, demonstrated the PT boat's range and reliability. Night patrol and interdiction became primary missions. In the Solomon Islands campaign, PT boat squadrons based at Chalagi and later Renova operated nightly against the Tokyo Express, Japanese destroyer convoys that ran supplies to isolated garrisons. The PT boats, with their aircraft engines purring at cruise power, would lurk near known transit routes. When radar or lookouts detected approaching ships, the engines would roar to full power, pushing the boats to 40 knots as they closed for torpedo attacks. The Japanese response evolved throughout 1943. Initially, destroyer captains assumed the small, fast boats were insignificant threats. After several successful attacks, attitudes changed. Japanese destroyers began operating at high speeds during transit, making torpedo attacks more difficult. They improved their searchlight tactics, attempting to illuminate attacking PT boats. Some destroyers were equipped with special anti-PT boat weapons, including automatic cannons and searchlight-directed machine guns. The night of August 1st to 2nd, 1943, when PT-109 was ran by Amagiri, represented the zenith of Japanese anti-PTO tactics. The destroyer captain, having encountered PT boats on previous runs, had stationed extra lookouts and ordered high-speed zigzag maneuvers. When his lookouts reported a PT boat ahead, he made an instant decision. Rather than slow and engage with guns, risking a torpedo attack, he maintained maximum speed and aimed a ram. The collision destroyed PT-109, but demonstrated how seriously the Japanese now took the PT boat threat. Kennedy's survival and rescue, swimming 3 miles while towing a wounded crewman by a life jacket strap clenched in his teeth. Surviving on a deserted island, making contact with coast watchers, became legendary. But the broader story was how PT boats had forced the Japanese Navy to fundamentally change their tactics. Destroyers that once operated with impunity now traveled in pairs or groups for mutual protection. They maintained high speeds, even in restricted waters, consuming fuel at unsustainable rates. They detoured around known PT boat operating areas, adding hours to transit times. The technical evolution of PT boats accelerated through 1943 and 1944. Radar, initially unavailable, became standard equipment. The SO radar, mounted on a mast above the cockpit, could detect surface targets at ranges up to 10 mi. This technology transformed night operations. PT boats no longer relied on visual detection. They could track enemy ships through darkness and rain, plotting intercept courses with precision impossible before. Radio communications improved dramatically. Early boats carried basic voice radios with limited range. By mid-1943, improved transmitters and receivers allowed PT boats to communicate with air support, coordinate with other boats, and receive real-time intelligence on enemy movements. This networking capability multiplied their effectiveness. A single boat detecting an enemy convoy could vector an entire squadron to the intercept point. The weapon suite expanded beyond torpedoes. Rockets, 5-in spin-stabilized rockets, mounted in racks of 6 or 8 tubes, provided shore bombardment capability. Depth charges allowed PT boats to attack submarines. Smoke generators created screening smoke for amphibious operations. Some boats received experimental weapons, including 75 mm cannons salvaged from destroyed tanks mounted on reinforced forward decks. The Packard engines, the heart of the PT boat's performance, proved remarkably reliable under conditions that would destroy ordinary marine engines. Salt water, tropical heat, continuous high-power operation. These engines endured it all. The maintenance regime was intensive. Motor machinists' mates performed daily checks on oil pressure, coolant temperature, fuel consumption. Every 50 hours of operation, spark plugs were changed. Every 100 hours, complete engine inspections. Major overhauls occurred every 500 hours. The sound of 3 Packard engines at full power became legendary. A deep synchronized roar that could be heard for miles across calm water. Japanese troops on shore learned to recognize it as the sound of approaching danger. The distinctive note of 12-cylinder aviation engines slightly out of sync, creating a pulsing beat that grew louder as the boat accelerated. Allied troops found it reassuring, the sound of powerful support arriving at incredible speed. The tactical doctrine evolved to maximize the platform's strengths while minimizing vulnerabilities. PT boats operated in divisions of 4 boats. They approached targets at cruise speed 18 to 20 knots, conserving fuel and minimizing wake. When radar or lookouts detected enemy ships, the boats would separate, attacking from multiple directions simultaneously. This dispersal made it impossible for defenders to concentrate fire. While one boat drew searchlight attention, others attacked from darkness. The attack run itself was a carefully choreographed maneuver. From initial detection to torpedo launch typically took 3 to 5 minutes. The boat would accelerate to maximum speed close to within 500 to 10 yards of the target and launch torpedoes. As soon as torpedoes were away, the boat would execute a high-speed turn, laying smoke if illuminated, and accelerate away at 40+ knots. The entire evolution, from slow cruise to attack speed and back to escape, showcased the Packard engine's instant throttle response and sustained high-power output. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the incredible engineering that created the PTB boat, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We bring you the untold stories of American innovation and the technological marvels that changed naval warfare forever. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss these fascinating explorations of World War II's most revolutionary weapons. The production scale demonstrated American industrial might. Elco produced 398 PT boats between 1941 and 1945. Higgins Industries in New Orleans produced 199 boats of a slightly different design. Hawkins Yacht Corporation built 18. Total production exceeded 600 boats, each requiring 3 Packard engines. The Packard plants produced over 1,800 marine engines while simultaneously building thousands of Merlin engines for fighters and bombers. The cost per boat, approximately $3 €0 in 1943 seemed expensive compared to the raw materials involved. A plywood boat with 3 engines costing more than many all-steel subchasers, but the capability justified the expense. A PT boat could attack capital ships that would require multiple destroyers or submarines to threaten. It could operate in waters too shallow for larger vessels, and critically, it could be built quickly, requiring just 6 to 8 months from kellaying to commissioning compared to 2 years for a destroyer. The crew quality proved exceptional. PT boat service attracted volunteers seeking adventure and independence. The small crew meant everyone knew everyone. The informal command structure necessary for split-second tactical decisions appealed to men uncomfortable with rigid Navy hierarchy. Many officers and crew members were college-educated, unusual for enlisted personnel. Some were athletes attracted by the physical demands. Others were engineers, fascinated by the machinery. Living conditions aboard PT boats were Spartan. No bunks. Crew members slept on cushions or hammocks wherever they could find space. No galley meals were cold rations or food heated on the engine manifolds. No sanitation facilities beyond a bucket. Fresh water was severely limited, used primarily for the engine's cooling systems. Crew members often went days without bathing. The combination of gasoline fumes, engine heat, and tropical humidity created an environment that tested endurance. Yet morale remained exceptionally high. The sense of being part of an elite unit operating the Navy's most advanced fast attack craft created pride that overcame discomfort. The knowledge that they could outrun anything they couldn't outfight provided confidence. And the Packard engines, never failing when pushed to maximum power, never leaving them stranded when speed meant survival, earned unwavering trust. The Japanese perspective on PT boats shifted from dismissive to fearful. Early war documents referred to them as mosquito boats, annoying but not threatening. By mid-1943, captured documents showed the Japanese had developed specific anti-PT boat tactics, and had disseminated these tactics fleet-wide. Instructions included maintaining high speeds in PT boat operating areas, using search lights aggressively, concentrating fire on illuminated targets, and attempting to ram when possible. Japanese destroyer captains who survived PT boat attacks consistently reported the incredible acceleration and speed. One captured report described, quote, "The enemy torpedo boat was detected at 20 m. We illuminated with searchlight and opened fire with main battery. Before we could achieve ranging, the enemy boat accelerated to impossible speed and disappeared into darkness from stationary to invisible in less than 30 seconds. Our gunners had no time to track." Close quote. This testimony validated the entire PTBO concept: speed as defense, acceleration as tactical advantage, the ability to strike and vanish before the enemy could respond, all made possible by aviation engines that could deliver full power instantly and sustain it indefinitely. The versatility of PT boats expanded beyond torpedo attacks. In the Philippines campaign, PTBOs conducted special operations missions, landing reconnaissance teams on Japanese-held islands, evacuating downed pilots, running supplies to guerrilla forces. The combination of speed, shallow draft, and range made them ideal for these unconventional missions. Some boats were modified specifically for these roles, removing torpedoes to increase fuel capacity and passenger space. The most unusual PT boat mission occurred in October 1944 during the Battle of Leyte Gulf. PT boats from multiple squadrons positioned themselves in Surigel Strait as the last line of defense before Japanese battleships could reach American amphibious forces. Throughout the night of October 24th to 25th, PT boats made repeated attacks on the Japanese southern force. While most torpedoes missed or malfunctioned, the attacks disrupted Japanese formations and provided crucial intelligence on enemy composition and course. When Japanese battleships Yamashiro and Fuso entered Surigel Strait, they encountered a gauntlet. PT boats attacking from both flanks, destroyers launching mass torpedo attacks, cruisers and battleships firing from prepared positions in a classic crossing the T maneuver. The PT boats, smallest vessels in the battle, had delayed and disrupted the Japanese advance sufficiently for the trap to be perfectly set. Both Japanese battleships were sunk along with 3 destroyers. The PT boat's contribution, while not delivering the killing blows, proved essential to the victory. The Philippines Liberation Campaign saw PT boats achieved their greatest successes, operating from forward bases established immediately after each amphibious landing. They controlled coastal waters and interdicted Japanese reinforcement efforts. Between October 1944 and March 1945, PT boat squadrons in the Philippines conducted over 2,000 combat patrols, engaged in over 500 actions with enemy vessels, and were credited with sinking or damaging over 300 Japanese vessels, including destroyers, subchasers, cargo ships, and landing craft. The human cost was significant. 69 PT boats were lost to all causes during the war. Enemy action destroyed 43. Accidents, weather, and operational losses accounted for the rest. Approximately 500 PT boat personnel were killed in action. Hundreds more were wounded, but the exchange ratio favored the Americans overwhelmingly. For every PT boat lost, Japanese forces lost multiple vessels. For every PT boat crewman killed, dozens of Japanese sailors died. The technical achievements represented by PT boats influenced post-war naval development worldwide. The Soviet Union built hundreds of torpedo boats based on captured German designs and PT boat intelligence. Britain expanded their coastal forces with motor torpedo boats, incorporating lessons from American designs. Even today, fast attack craft and navies worldwide trace their lineage to the PT boats that proved small. Fast vessels with powerful weapons could challenge much larger warships. The Packard marine engines, the technological heart that made PT boats possible, remained in production through the late 1940s. Many were converted to civilian use, powering racing boats and luxury yachts. Some ended up in aircraft, returning to their aviation roots in experimental and racing planes. The last Packard 4M 2500 engines operated commercially into the 1960s, a testament to their robust design and reliability. PT-9, the boat that made John F. Kennedy famous, was never recovered. It rests in over 1,000 ft of water in Blackett Strait, broken in half. The Packard engines that powered it through so many patrols now silent. But Kennedy's experience, his leadership during the survival ordeal, his rescue of his crew became central to his political identity. The PT boat commander who became president never forgot the men he served with or the incredible machines they operated. The preserved PT boats in museums today, lovingly maintained by volunteers, demonstrate the revolutionary nature of these craft. PT-6, on display at Battleship Cove in Massachusetts, still has its original Packard engines. PT-658, fully restored to operating condition in Portland, Oregon, occasionally runs its engines, producing that distinctive roar that once struck fear into Japanese sailors. These surviving boats, just a handful from over 600 built, represent an entire category of warfare that existed for barely 4 years, but changed naval combat forever. Before we conclude this incredible story, if you've watched this far, you clearly appreciate the engineering genius and combat innovation that defined World War II. We researched these stories exhaustively to bring you the technical details, the human drama, and the historical significance that textbooks miss. Show your support by subscribing to our channel and hitting that notification bell. Join thousands of viewers who love discovering the untold stories of American ingenuity and courage. Subscribe now. The final statistics reveal the PTBO's impact. 631 boats built, approximately 6,000 crew members served, over 10,000 combat patrols conducted. Japanese vessels sunk or damaged by PT boats. Estimates range from 300 to 500 depending on sources, but these numbers don't capture the psychological impact. The fear Japanese sailors felt hearing Packard engines approaching through darkness. The tactical constraints imposed by PT boat presence. The resources diverted to counter the threat. the engineering achievement deserves equal recognition. Taking aviation engines, producing 1,500 horsepower each and adapting them for marine use, building plywood hulls that could survive 40-knot impacts and continue fighting, creating fire control systems that allowed accurate torpedo attacks in total darkness, training crews to operate complex machinery under combat conditions. Every aspect represented cutting-edge engineering and tactical innovation. The legacy extends beyond naval warfare. The concept of using powerful light engines from one domain in another influenced post-war development across industries. Helicopter turbines adapted from jet engines. Racing car engines derived from aviation power plants. High-performance marine engines based on automotive technology. The principle established by P.T. Boats that the best engine for a mission might come from an unexpected source became standard practice. Modern special operations forces use similar concepts, fast boats with powerful engines conducting raids and infiltrations. The special operations craft riverine used by Navy SEALs traces conceptual lineage directly to P.T. Boats. Fast, maneuverable, heavily armed, operating in shallow coastal waters where larger vessels cannot go. The tactics. The mission profile, even some of the weapons echo the P.T. Boats of 1943. The men who served on P.T. Boats carried their experiences differently than veterans of larger warships. The intimacy of 12 men living and fighting together created bonds that lasted lifetimes. PTBO reunions held annually decades after the war brought together men who had shared the unique experience of riding a plywood speedboat powered by aircraft engines into combat against destroyers and cruisers. Their stories emphasized the engines almost as much as the combat. The relief when 3 Packards roared to life before a patrol, the confidence hearing them respond instantly when attacked, the admiration for the motor machinists' mates who kept them running despite salt, heat, and continuous abuse. The Packard engines weren't just machinery. They were the difference between life and death, victory and defeat, mission success and catastrophic failure. The Japanese recognition of PT boat effectiveness came too late to develop effective counters. By the time they understood the threat and had distributed tactics to deal with it, American forces controlled most of the Pacific. The remaining Japanese destroyers, scattered and fuel-starved, couldn't maintain the high-speed operations needed to counter PT boats. The sea fortresses, as Japanese sailors had named them, dominated coastal waters in the Philippines, Borneo, and throughout the South Pacific. When World War II ended in August 1945, PT boat squadrons were positioned throughout the Western Pacific, ready to support the planned invasion of Japan. That invasion never came. The atomic bombs and Soviet entry into the war ended the conflict, but PT boats remained on patrol until the surrender was signed. Even then, they conducted post-war missions, evacuating prisoners of war, accepting local surrenders of isolated Japanese garrisons, showing the flag in newly liberated ports. The demobilization was swift. By October 1945, most PT boat squadrons were deactivated. The boats, no longer needed, were either scrapped, sold to Allied nations, or in a few cases, sold as surplus to civilians. The Packard engines, still highly valuable, were removed and sold separately. Some went into racing boats. Others were converted back to aircraft use. Many simply sat in warehouses until eventually scrapped when their technology became obsolete. The story of PT boats, of aviation engines and speedboats, of plywood hulls attacking steel warships, seems almost fictional. Yet it happened. 631 boats proved that innovation could overcome size, that speed could defeat armor, that a handful of men in a wooden boat powered by airplane engines could challenge the most powerful navy in the Pacific and win. The sea fortress earned its name through thousands of patrols, hundreds of attacks, and the unwavering performance of 3 Packard Marine engines that never failed when pushed to their limits. When Japanese sailors heard that distinctive roar approaching through the darkness, they knew they faced something unprecedented, something that could strike with devastating power and vanish before they could respond, something that represented American innovation, industrial might, and tactical audacity at their finest. The PT boat, powered by engines designed for bombers and fighters, represented warfare's evolution, the recognition that the best solution might combine technologies from different domains, that plywood and aviation engines might create the perfect coastal combat platform, that 12 men with courage and training could challenge warships 100 times their tonnage and prevail. When they strapped aircraft engines on a speedboat and sent it to war, they created the sea fortress. The Japanese learned to fear it. The Americans learned to trust it, and naval warfare changed forever. Thunder of Packard engines echoing across tropical waters announced the arrival of a new kind of warship. Small, fast, deadly, and powered by the same engines that lifted bombers over Europe. The PTBO proved that sometimes the most revolutionary weapons come from the most unexpected combinations of technology, courage, and American ingenuity. The Sea Fortress sailed into history powered by aviation engines crewed by volunteers, feared by its enemies and remembered as one of World War II's most innovative and effective weapons platforms. The boats are mostly gone. The engines are silent, but the legacy remains. Fast attack craft in modern navies worldwide owe their existence to the men who rode plywood speedboats powered by bomber engines into combat against impossible odds and won. That legacy written in speed, firepower, and the distinctive roar of Packard marine engines will never be forgotten.